The first sound was the scrape of glass against wood, like someone taking their time with a bad decision. My sister Amanda didn't knock the cup over, she tilted it. She stood beside my 7-year-old daughter Lily, lifting her elbow just enough for the juice to spill. Lily had spent the entire weekend on that drawing. It was a picture of our old house with the crooked porch and the maple tree out front, the one she missed since the divorce. She planned to give it to her dad. The orange liquid spread across the paper, flooding the roof, drowning the windows, curling the edges as the colors bled into each other. "It's just a drawing," Amanda said, her tone bored, almost instructional. "Kids need to learn early that effort doesn't mean anything." She set the cup down in the middle of the mess and looked around the table like she'd just made a point worth applauding. My brother laughed. "That's life," he said. "Better she learns now." Someone else snorted. My mother smiled, already reaching for napkins. Lily didn't cry. She didn't say a word. She stared at the paper as if her brain hadn't caught up to what her eyes were seeing. Her fingers hovered over the table, shaking slightly, unsure whether she was allowed to touch what used to be hers. "Drop a comment and tell me where you're listening from and what time it is right now." I didn't move. I didn't argue. I watched my daughter shrink. Her shoulders curled inward, her chin tucked down. She wasn't waiting for help, she was waiting for it to be over. She was learning the fastest lesson in our family. Disappear, stay quiet, don't make it worse. She wasn't looking for comfort, she was looking for invisibility. She was holding her breath, waiting for the room to move on, convinced that silence was armor. And in that pause, I recognized it. The quiet contract forming in her body, the same one I signed decades ago. The agreement that said, stay small, stay pleasant, don't provoke the people who enjoy the power. I watched my daughter absorb the lesson instantly. She learned that embarrassment was entertainment. She learned that adults preferred comfort over truth. She learned that pain was acceptable as long as it was quiet. She learned to swallow her voice before it became a problem. She wasn't just being corrected, she was being conditioned. And I understood, with clarity, that this moment wasn't about spilled juice. The realization landed slowly, like pressure building behind my eyes before the headache finally broke. I wasn't just watching my daughter be humiliated. I was watching a pattern complete itself. I was witnessing the transfer of an inheritance no one ever wanted. Silence, compliance, the instinct to apologize for existing. If I let this moment pass, she would carry it forward like a family heirloom, polishing it, defending it, teaching it to her own children someday. I looked around the table, searching for an adult, a witness, anyone willing to interrupt the ritual. My father sat across from us, shoulders stiff, fingers wrapped too tightly around his glass. His expression was neutral, but I saw the tension hiding underneath, the old calculations running behind his eyes. The room felt compressed, airless, as if every unspoken memory had leaned inward at once. I stood. The chair legs screamed against the floor, sharp and unforgiving. The sound sliced through the laughter and left a jagged silence behind it. I didn't reach for paper towels. I didn't apologize. I stepped forward and placed myself between Amanda and Lily, my back to my sister, my body blocking her view. I wasn't protecting the drawing. I was protecting the child. For the first time, I didn't feel responsible for anyone else's comfort. I felt the clarity of something ending. It wasn't anger, it was resolution, a clean subtraction. "You liked that," I said. My voice didn't shake, it didn't rise, it landed. "You enjoyed watching her work on something, and you enjoyed ruining it." Amanda scoffed, already refilling her cup, the liquid sloshing carelessly against the rim. "Relax," she said. "It's not a tragedy. Kids need thicker skin." Thicker skin. The words echoed, ugly and familiar. The room went still. My mother inhaled sharply, already preparing to intervene. I didn't look at her. I held my sister's gaze. I wasn't the fixer anymore. I wasn't smoothing edges or translating cruelty into humor. I was done managing damage. I was counting it. I glanced at my father again. His jaw flexed once. He hadn't moved, but something had shifted. Before I could speak again, my mother rushed forward, grabbing napkins, scrubbing the table with frantic enthusiasm. "It's fine," she chirped. "It was an accident. We can replace it." She didn't touch the drawing. She didn't touch Lily. She wiped wood and avoided eyes. In that moment, something hardened in me. She wasn't unaware. She was invested in a peace that required sacrifice, and the currency was always the quiet child. Amanda leaned back, emboldened by the cleanup, her confidence inflating when someone else absorbed the cost. "See," she said lightly, "no harm done." Lily stayed frozen behind me, breath shallow, waiting for permission to exist again. I felt her fingers brush my sleeve, tentative, checking whether this stand was real. It was real. I didn't move. I stayed planted, letting the silence stretch until it became uncomfortable for the right people. At last, someone shifted uneasily. I watched my mother flutter between us, smiling too hard, apologizing to everyone and no one, narrating a story where nothing bad had happened. She spoke quickly, stacking excuses like plates, hoping speed would replace truth. Her voice filled the room, leaving no space for Lily's silence anymore right now. Amanda mistook the silence for victory. She always did. She thrived when no one challenged her version of reality. Power, for her, lived in unchecked moments. I saw it in her posture, relaxed and careless, confident the room would bend again, as it always had before this night once more. My father finally moved, not fast, not dramatically. He set his glass down with care, as if precision still mattered. His chair creaked as he stood, the sound heavy with years of restraint. The room seemed to tilt, waiting to see which version of him would speak next right now. He didn't look at Amanda, he looked at my mother. His voice was low, deliberate, unfamiliar. He named what she avoided. He named the cost. He named the habit of cleaning messes instead of protecting people. Each sentence landed slowly, dismantling decades of practiced denial in that room alone tonight. My mother tried to interrupt, but he continued. He spoke of years measured in concessions, of silence mistaken for loyalty. He admitted his failures without excuses. The honesty startled everyone. I felt something loosen behind my ribs, a tension I'd normalized finally releasing its grip for the first time ever. Amanda laughed, brittle and sharp, trying to reclaim control. She minimized, mocked, reframed. She always reframed. When truth approached, she turned it into comedy. The laugh didn't spread this time. It dropped to the floor and shattered, leaving her exposed in the quiet without allies, protection, excuses left tonight. My father's calm frightened her more than anger ever could. He spoke like a man auditing damage, listing consequences without emotion. He described choices, patterns, results. No insults, no shouting, just math. The authority in his restraint shifted the gravity of the entire room suddenly, decisively, permanently inward for us. He revealed records, details, numbers that told a longer story, money traced like footprints in snow. Each figure stripped another layer of illusion away. My mother shrank with every page. Amanda's confidence eroded visibly, replaced by calculation, then fear, then disbelief she couldn't perform away with charm or noise now. The room felt smaller as truth expanded. No one laughed, no one defended her. Even the usual allies stared at the table. Power hates witnesses. It collapses when seen clearly. I felt Lily press closer to me, her weight returning, her breathing slowing, sensing safety forming beside us at last. I realized confrontation wasn't destruction, it was correction. Something broken was finally being acknowledged. The cost was high, but the alternative was inheritance of harm. I stood steady, unmoving as the family narrative cracked. For once, the fracture felt necessary, even clean and long overdue for everyone involved tonight, here. The moment stretched, fragile and sharp, like glass pulled too thin. My father closed the folder slowly, as if sealing a verdict. No one rushed to speak. The room had learned restraint the hard way. Amanda searched for an opening, scanning faces for the familiar rescue that never failed her before. It didn't come. Even my uncle avoided her eyes, suddenly fascinated by the grain of the table, by anything that didn't ask him to choose sides. Amanda tried to regain her footing with volume. She accused, deflected, reframed. She spoke of loyalty and love, of how families were supposed to protect their own. The words sounded rehearsed, recycled from arguments that once worked, but the timing was off. The audience had changed. My father listened without reacting, his silence more devastating than interruption. When he spoke again, he didn't address the insults. He named consequences. He explained boundaries like engineering principles, load limits finally exceeded. He described how structures fail not from one crack, but from many ignored ones. His voice never rose. The steadiness made the message impossible to dismiss. My mother broke then, not with accountability, but with panic. She pleaded for appearances, for neighbors, for the story she told herself every morning. She begged him not to embarrass her, not to ruin what little image remained. Her fear wasn't about Lily, it wasn't about me, it was about being seen clearly for the first time. Amanda scoffed, calling it dramatic, accusing him of betrayal. She insisted she didn't need any of this. She claimed independence loudly, as if volume could manufacture truth. My father responded by removing the illusion gently and completely. He explained what was ending and when. He didn't threaten, he informed. The shift was immediate. Amanda's confidence drained from her face as logistics replaced performance. She checked her phone compulsively, refreshing screens that no longer reassured her. Reality moved faster than her ability to outrun it. I watched her shrink, not with satisfaction, but with clarity. Power without accountability dissolves instantly. Lily tugged my sleeve, small and grounding. I knelt beside her, meeting her eyes at level. She wasn't crying, she was watching, absorbing a different lesson now, that adults could stop harm, that silence wasn't mandatory, that someone would stand when it mattered. I brushed paint-stained fingers from her cheek, steady and present. The storm outside intensified, rain hammering against windows like punctuation. My father opened the door wide, letting cold air rush in. The invitation was unmistakable, not shouted, not cruel, final. Amanda hesitated, scanning again for rescue. None arrived. Even my mother stood frozen, unable to move toward anyone without abandoning herself. As Amanda stepped toward the door, she looked back at me, eyes wide with a plea she'd never offered before. Sisterhood, she implied. Obligation, history. I thought of the drawing, of Lily's folded shoulders, of generations paid for with silence. You should go, I said quietly. The words held. The door stayed open. The rain waited. So did the future we were choosing instead. The door closed behind them with a sound that felt heavier than wood meeting frame. It wasn't slammed. It didn't need to be. The finality lived in the quiet that followed, the kind that doesn't rush to fill itself. The house felt different immediately, like a pressure valve had finally released. Lily exhaled before she even realized she'd been holding her breath. I felt it too, the unfamiliar absence of vigilance, the strange relief of not waiting for the next outburst. My father remained standing, one hand resting on the back of his chair, the other loose at his side. He looked older in that moment, but lighter, as if years of restraint had finally been set down. He didn't speak right away. He didn't need to. The truth had already done its work. I watched him glance toward Lily, his expression softening, regret passing through his eyes without words. He crouched beside her slowly, careful not to startle her. He spoke gently, explaining nothing, apologizing for everything. Not defensively, not selectively, completely. Lily listened, nodding, absorbing sincerity she'd rarely seen modeled before. When he told her that what she made mattered, that she mattered, she believed him. I could see it in the way her shoulders relaxed, in the way she leaned forward instead of shrinking back. The rest of the family drifted away quietly, one by one, excuses forming without conviction. No one wanted to sit with the aftermath. Accountability makes people restless. Soon it was just the three of us in the room, the ruined drawing still on the table, no longer ignored. I picked it up carefully. The paper was warped, the colors muddied, but it wasn't destroyed, it was altered, scarred, still real. Lily asked if it was ruined. I told her the truth. It was changed, but it was still hers. That answer seemed to satisfy her. She smiled faintly, the kind of smile that trusts without testing. I realized then that resilience isn't about toughness, it's about safety. Children don't need to be hardened, they need to be protected long enough to stay soft. Later that night, after Lily fell asleep, my father and I sat at the kitchen table. No performance, no denial, just quiet honesty. He spoke about choices he didn't make, moments he avoided, how fear disguised itself as peace for too long. He didn't ask for forgiveness, he didn't demand absolution. He owned the damage. That mattered more than apology ever could. We talked about boundaries, about what rebuilding might look like without pretending nothing had happened. We talked about distance, about consequences that wouldn't be reversed by guilt. It was uncomfortable, but it was clean. I realized that breaking patterns doesn't feel heroic, it feels lonely, it feels uncertain, but it also feels like oxygen returning to a room that's been sealed shut for decades. When I finally went to bed, I checked on Lily one more time. She slept deeply, her face peaceful, unburdened. The house was quiet, not tense, just quiet. For the first time, I understood that silence could be safe when it wasn't demanded. It could mean rest instead of fear, and that made every difficult choice worth it. 6 months later, the air in our lives felt lighter, cleaner, unfiltered. We had moved into a smaller place closer to Lily's school, a quiet apartment with large windows and floors that didn't echo old arguments. Nothing about it was impressive, but everything about it was calm. There were no raised voices, no sudden mood shifts, no rituals designed to keep volatile people comfortable. Peace stopped being a performance and became a default. Lily changed in ways so subtle they would have been easy to miss if I wasn't watching closely. She stopped apologizing before asking questions. She stopped flinching when something spilt. When she made art, she didn't glance around for approval. She worked slowly, confidently, unafraid of taking up space. One afternoon, she taped a new drawing to the refrigerator without asking. It wasn't perfect. That was the point. My father visited often. Not to supervise, not to control, just to show up. He never corrected Lily unless she asked. He listened more than he spoke. Sometimes they built things together, small projects that required patience and precision. He taught her that mistakes were measurements, not failures. That strength wasn't volume. That authority didn't need to dominate to be real. The rest of the family faded into background noise. Messages came less frequently. Invitations stopped altogether. There were rumors, accusations, stories designed to make us look cruel. I let them circulate. Defending yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you is just another form of self-betrayal. We didn't correct a narrative, we replaced it. Lily asked about her aunt once. I told her the truth, filtered through kindness. That some people hurt others to feel powerful, and that protecting yourself doesn't mean you don't love them. It means you love yourself enough to walk away. She nodded, accepting complexity with a grace most adults never learn. Children don't need lies, they need clarity. On her next birthday, the gifts stayed intact. There was laughter that didn't sting. No one waited for permission to enjoy themselves. Lily opened each present slowly, savoring the moment, safe in the knowledge that joy wouldn't be punished. When she finished, she handed me a small wrapped box. Inside was a drawing, a lake, a cabin, a frame around it, carefully measured, solid, unbreakable. I hung it in the hallway where everyone could see it, not as a reminder of what happened, but of what didn't continue. Trauma doesn't disappear when confronted. It loosens its grip. It stops being inherited. Patterns don't break loudly. They end quietly, with someone choosing differently when it would have been easier not to. That night, as I turned off the lights, I realized something final and freeing. We didn't lose a family. We gained a future. And that was worth every uncomfortable truth it took to get there. Months later, the feeling inside our new place was different. Not brighter in a dramatic way, just steadier. The sunlight came in clean through the wide windows, soft and honest, falling across bare floors that didn't hold echoes of old fights. The apartment was smaller than the house we left behind, but it didn't feel like a downgrade. It felt like oxygen. There were no unspoken rules here, no emotional landmines disguised as jokes, no silence charged with expectation. Peace wasn't something we earned anymore. It was just there. I sat on the floor against the wall, watching them. My father was crouched beside Lily on a tarp, both of them smudged with paint and pencil dust. They were building a frame for her latest drawing. He showed her how to hold the ruler steady, how to line up the edges. "Measured twice," he said calmly. "Take your time. If the frame is solid, the picture stays safe." She nodded seriously, concentrating, proud to be trusted with something that mattered. "Like this?" she asked. "Just like that," he smiled. No correction, no pressure, just confidence passed quietly from one generation to the next. Across town, my sister was living a very different version of reality. The calls stopped. The excuses dried up. The family money that once cushioned every bad decision was gone. There were consequences now, real ones. She blamed me, of course, said I was cruel, said I ruined everything. I didn't argue. Accountability always feels like betrayal to people who've never had to face it. Other relatives sent messages, long paragraphs filled with blame, rewritten history, and moral lectures. I deleted them unread, not out of anger, but out of clarity. You don't heal by reopening wounds just to prove you were hurt. I looked back at Lily. She dropped a brush, paint splattering the tarp. She laughed, actually laughed. No panic, no apology. She grabbed a cloth and wiped it up, completely sure that no one was about to explode. That moment landed heavier than any argument ever had. This was the cost, and this was the reward. We didn't win. We didn't get justice speeches or apologies or cinematic closure. What we got was quieter and better. Relaxed shoulders, easy laughter, a child who wasn't learning how to disappear to survive. We broke a cycle that had been defended for decades in the name of family. We chose people over appearances, safety over tradition, truth over comfort. If you've ever had to walk away from a bond to protect your peace, type freedom in the comments. Not for validation, but to remind yourself and anyone else reading that choosing yourself was never the wrong choice.